Disney movies and nature have been a team since Snow White all the way back in 1937, and currently Disney is incorporating all kinds of wildlife and the human lore surrounding nature in incredible detail. There have been some missteps, but that's okay, and it's kind of fun to be honest. But a lot of the times their movies incorporate a world that we sometimes don't even notice. So here's a little attempt at a series on the nature found in Disney. I thought I'd start with a little known, kind of ignored movie called The Sign of Zorro from the 60s. Now, you know what I'm going to talk about. Of course I'm going to talk about Frozen 2, and part of the reason is because while my daughter loves Anna and Elsa, I personally think the attention the creators gave to real Scandinavian nature is actually really cool. I mean, look at Olaf here, standing next to what I presume to be a downy birch, which goes further north than any other broadleaf tree, and is prevalent in the montane birch forests, which are in the northernmost part of Scandinavia, which also happens to be where the enchanted forest in the movie is as well. Birch is also considered a sacred tree, which means that it's a tree used in gardens to be well tended, which shows respect for your ancestors. One of my new favourite characters in the movie is Bruni the Salamander. I've heard him being called a lizard a few times, and that's fine, but if you know a little bit about European myth, it's fairly obvious he is in fact a salamander. For example, salamanders were thought of as born of fire. Supposedly, when people would put logs in fires, the very hot, all of a sudden salamanders would scurry out, and people kind of associate the two and actually think that's how salamanders were created. And early travelers actually went to China, and they were told that clothes made by the Chinese actually were made from salamander skin. In reality, scholars think that it was, well, scholars, I don't know, Wikipedia, thinks that the clothes were woven from asbestos. That's really neat to actually have real fire-proof clothes. On the other hand, I'm not too sure how that would feel actually wearing asbestos clothes. That doesn't sound very comfortable at all. Sadly, I can't find a species of salamander in Scandinavia that looks the same as Bruni. In America, we have the blue-spotted salamander, which bears a slight resemblance, but nothing in Europe. However, in Sweden, there is a newt called a great crested newt, and it's really cool looking. The males have this awesome crest that goes down its body that has almost a kind of a flamey look to it, and if you stretch your imagination, it does have some coloration that maybe you could associate with Bruni. I do know that if I was a medieval person and I saw this salamander that have these, flame-looking designs on its back, and I also learned that its skin is supposedly fire-resistant, and the secretions that come from its body is poisonous, I could definitely mistake the little critters as baby dragons. The other famous animal spirit, and soon to be flying off the store shelves, is Nock, which also has real ties to Nordic mythology. However, the European version is a little bit more terrifying than it is in Frozen. In Scandinavia, the water spirit was a shape changer called Neck, who would lure unsuspecting people near water and then drown them. In Wales, Keffeldur was a water horse who would let you ride on his back, and he'd shoot you in the air, and you'd think you'd having a great old time, and then he drops you to your death. And from what I remember, these stories were around to keep children from getting too close to water and drowning them themselves. And I think there was something in Frozen about that too, from what I remember. The movie also kind of has a nod to that dangerous thing too, where the water horse Nock is trying to take out Elsa multiple times before she tames it. So not only are they using, the water spirits and the water horse spirit from European culture and mythology, but they're kind of keeping some of that dangerous story behind the water horse as well, which I think is pretty cool. And even I think one of the characters always says, "Why are all these stories made to terrify kids?" So I could keep going on. I mean, Frozen has Norway maples, reindeer, and a bunch of other little plants I haven't even identified yet. So if you like this video, let me know, and I might talk a little bit more about Frozen. But I also hope to look at some other Disney movies in the future. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the nature found in Disney, keep an eye on the channel, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye!